it. I mean, like people say I should do it in certain ways. I have no idea, really. We are on the afternoon break in the questioning of Guy Taylor at the undercover policing inquiry. Guy Taylor was a founding member of Globalised Resistance, which was infiltrated by the undercover police officer HM118 using the cover name Simon Wellings. I'm joined by Marion Jones, the investigative journalist, who was the person who first ran the story about the exposure of the undercover officer Simon Wellings after he left a voicemail on the phone of an activist after accidentally ringing them during a meeting with his handlers. We've just actually looked at that part of it. What have you made of what you've heard?
It was really interesting to see it from Simon Wellings, as I know him, from his point of view and his version of what really happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's a particularly bad bit of tradecraft by an undercover officer.
It's fantastic. It's Inspector Clouseau, the undercover cop. When Guy first came to me with the tape, it was just incredible. It's one of those moments where you sit down in the news office and you play it to absolutely everyone in the office, and people are crying, laughing at the incompetence of Wellings, or HN118, if you want to call him that.
Yeah, I mean, as well as like the fact that he made this phone call, which apparently was because he was asked the phone number of a particular activist. He looked up the number, gave the number, and then accidentally rang them at the same time. He also misidentifies one of the activists. He mixes up the first names of two female activists. I mean, it is a particularly poor piece of tradecraft, and it exposes him. No, though not straight away. Guy's very honest about it. He says he didn't realize it was him at first because of the nature of the recording, but it was actually the key phrase of and all that stuff that he used to say all the time that really identified him.
Yes, and then it was years later before it was publicly revealed. So it was only after we ran the first of the undercover cop stories with The Guardian that Guy came forward. I'd known Guy forever and said, look, we've got this recording. And I think there's an element there that up to that point, until Mark Kennedy was exposed, people didn't want to admit that they had been spied on because it made them look incompetent. Whereas once Mark Kennedy came out, well, every group wanted to prove that it had been important enough to be spied on.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important because there were whispers going back to the 1970s. I mean, we look back at like Rick Clark and his infiltration of Big Flame and the internal investigations they did into it. They put all the information together, put it in a folder, and then said wrote on it, if anything happens to a member of Big Flame, release this information. There are so many times where this unit could have been exposed, but wasn't, because, like you say, there was a lot of embarrassment about that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, for instance, at the moment, there is a file going around on suspected undercovers in the climate movement, listing a lot of people. And I don't know whether all those names are genuine or not. And it's very, very difficult, isn't it? Because somebody who's a very good activist could look a lot like an informer. So they tended to be people who offered to be a photographer, like Simon Wellings, or offered to drive the van. They had a van from work which could take people places, like Kennedy. So somebody who was a really good, organized, capable member of a group could look very much like an undercover cop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this has led. I mean, I know that the undercover research group has, a huge number of people. People came forward saying, "Oh, we think this person undercover cop," and it's totally spurious because of the paranoia that exists from the exposure of someone. We do have to be very careful. I mean, I think the US term for it is bad jacketing. This idea of people who are, legitimate activists being kind of fingered as being undercover cops because they're so useful.
Can I tell you about the reaction of the Met?
Please.
Around the story. So I went to the Met and said, we have this tape. Can you confirm that he is an undercover police officer? And they did their NC, ND, not confirm, not deny line. So I said, okay, fine. I'll put his image up on the web and we'll put an appeal out for more information on him. And we got lots and lots more stuff on him. And then on the night we were going to broadcast the actual program, the Met rang again and said, look, we're going to confirm that he is an undercover cop. Will you agree not to broadcast the program? And I said, no, we'll broadcast the program and say the Met have confirmed that he is an undercover cop. They weren't very pleased.
No, I would imagine not. I mean, the Met maintained this neither confirmed nor denied defence for many years after it was very clear, that we had undercover officers, former undercover officers like Mark Kennedy, identifying themselves in the media as an undercover officer, and yet still the Met were going neither for confirm nor deny. Those of us who brought legal cases back in the early 2010s, were constantly coming up against this in court over and over again. I mean, it was a joke really, but they maintained it for such a long time, pretty much until the inquiry was called.
Yes, I mean, it's so obvious when you hear the tape. Now, unfortunately, we've only heard the bleeped version, and it's very difficult to follow that. But when you hear the full tape, it is absolutely obviously two police officers, one of them showing photographs, undercover taken photographs of activists, and the other one identifying, or in this case, misidentifying the activists. It's absolutely 100% clear.
Yeah, totally. As well as that particular bit, over the last hour and a half, we've seen a number of the other sort of reports by HM118 Simon Wellings. There's a pattern. There's a lot of exaggeration, both about his own particular role within the group, but also about what the group's been planning. I think that this is really familiar through a lot of the reporting of undercover officers. What have you made of what you've seen?
Yes, I mean, the escalation of the story about the fake suicide vest from, it being a mad idea that one person had that was talked down by Guy into a real suicide vest that may not have had explosive in it, but which was destroyed by Simon Wellings saving the world. It's just unbelievable. And then again, massively exaggerating how close he is to Guy, that he knows everything that is going on in the group. You could find out everything that was going on in that group just by reading, Resist. It wasn't a big secret.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, it was really telling that, the very first report that Simon Wellings files about Guy Taylor is his phone number. And as Guy Taylor pointed out, that phone number had been in The Guardian a year earlier. And we saw, the guy clearly was not the sort of person who was prone to extreme forms of security. I mean, his password, which he was telling anybody, was his middle name, to get into his computer.
Better not reveal.
I mean, he says he uses better passwords these days. But it was like we heard all this stuff about supposedly, according to Simon Wellings, that Guy Taylor had put some spyware on his laptop or his computer to catch out other people using it. It seemed pretty clear to me that that's something that Simon Wellings had done.
And it's deliberate fabrication, absolutely deliberate. And so there's a mixture of exaggeration. Occasionally you get something which Guy says, yeah, actually that did happen. But most of the time things are wildly exaggerated or completely fabricated. That he destroyed a non-existent suicide vest. It's just beyond all belief.
Yeah. I mean, one of them was that supposedly they were going to make another papier-mâché vehicle similar to the famous pink and orange sometime previously and get it into the motorcade with George W. Bush when he came to visit the UK. I mean, something like an absolutely ridiculous idea that would have never got anywhere. But it's been reported with a straight face, which is just insane.
Yes, and he has to do that in order to keep undercover there.
Yeah.
The only way he's going to justify his deployment is by exaggerating what Globalized Resistance are doing and exaggerating how important he is in that organization.
Yeah, absolutely. It's your first time at the Undercover Police Inquiry. What do you make of the whole process?
It's great. I mean, I've been following it through your tweets, which have been absolutely fantastic. It made me feel like I was there. And when I stepped in, it felt very familiar because I've been following you right the way through this. So no, it's good. It takes too long though, doesn't it?
It takes a very long period of time. I think that because the inquiry's so keen to get the full amount of information out, sometimes it feels like the same questions being asked 4 or 5 times. I mean, we just had before the break, the chair of the inquiry, John Mitting, intervening to ask if there's anything that Guy Taylor could add about the fact that that Simon Wellings had said that the MT had been the person who'd done the suicide vest and not X, the person who actually had come up with the harebrained scheme in the pub the one evening. And he's like, well, they're 30 years apart. They're different races. They're different classes. There's so much different about them. And he's like, just reflect on it in 15 minutes and then come back with any more information you might have. And it's like, what is left to say? But that's the way the inquiry works.
Missing there is saying this is absolutely fundamental to the credibility of Wellings. If you are right on this and he is wrong, he has deliberately made up. And there's a hint of that elsewhere where he claims it's an Arab
Yes.
with a suicide vest, that he is deliberately trying to build up a picture of somebody who might attack Ariel Sharon.
Yeah.
And he's creating a fiction and therefore saying, almost, you've got to keep me in this undercover role because I can single-handedly stop a suicide bomber attacking the Israeli leader.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've seen from so many of the former undercover officers this desperation to stay in with the role no matter what. I mean, we've just got to the recording, which should have really, in any sensible unit, meant the end of that deployment. Yeah, as we already know, but we hear more about, it continued. I mean, he stayed undercover for a fair while after that. Which, I mean, who the hell, what kind of manager? Like,
you definitely pull them out at that point. And had they pulled him out, they probably would never worked out that it was him, and they would have never known, to this day, that they had been. Well, they would have once the inquiry started, but they wouldn't have known anything about it until years later.
We're only on a short break in the afternoon. Just to say there's 27 people watching, only one's liked. It makes a massive difference to how visible these are. If people could like and share. We should go back in before they start up again. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's great. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. We'll do another video at the end of the day, hopefully with Guy Taylor himself. Bye for now.